Hey everybody, welcome back to poetry. We are going to learn another new type of poem. It is called an ode. So let's get started. Before we dive in more as to what an ode is, we're going to watch a commercial. Take a look.
I love you, basement guest bathroom. Your privacy makes you my #1 place to go #2. I love you, but sometimes you stink.
Did that make you kind of laugh? If it did, then you probably got the idea, maybe, of what an ode is. Let's take a look at it more. An ode is a poem that celebrates a subject, or it's a tribute to an object, person, or event. Basically, what that means is that you really enjoy or love something, and you just want to pay tribute to that something, that person. So in the case of this Febreze commercial, the object or that was being celebrated was the basement guest bathroom. They really loved it because, they could do their business in the bathroom. They really liked it. So they were paying tribute to the bathroom. An ode can be serious or humorous. So in this case, in the advertisement, it was meant to be humorous. It may or may not use rhyme or meter. So we've talked about rhyme, but meter is talking about the rhythm or the beat of the poem. Really, in summary, an ode can be about anything. You could write an ode about video games. I know there's a lot of you out there that love them. An ode you could write about pizza. An ode you could write about a family member. It can be anything that you really like, you enjoy, or you love. So we're going to take a look at an example so that you can see another type of ode, and we're going to do some practice with rhyme scheme and labeling this poem. So here's the next poem. It's called Ode to Coffee. Let me read it to you. Ode to Coffee. Sweet coffee, I adore thee, adrenaline of my days. I hope the day will never come when you and I part ways. Without you I'd be useless, perpetually sedated. I can't imagine doing a thing if I were not caffeinated. Warm liquid of my better self, of my soul and heart, the bliss I know in a cup of joe, we will never part. Sweeter than the autumn breeze, coming from the west, of all the liquids known to man, I love thee the best. I hope the day will never come when you and I part ways. Sweet coffee, I adore thee, adrenaline of my days. And that is by Carl Stevens. So let's take a look at our annotating instructions. Annotating just means to label. Number 1, highlight the last word of each line, the end rhymes, with the yellow highlighter. Again, a line is like a sentence, but remember, we don't call it a sentence in poetry. We call it a line. So I'm going to do the first 2 stanzas. So I'm highlighting the days come, ways, useless, sedated, thing, and caffeinated. So those are the end words for the end rhymes, I should say. Now I could keep going throughout this whole poem, but I'm just going to do the first 2. Annotate the rhyme scheme of the first 2 stanzas by writing the letters to the right of each rhyme, end rhyme. Now, I just said lines are like sentences, but we don't call them that. When we talk about a stanza is like a paragraph, but we don't call it a paragraph in poetry. We call it a stanza. So this right here would be stanza 1. All 4 of these lines put together would be stanza 1. This would be stanza 2, stanza 3, stanza 4, and stanza 5. Notice there's numbers here too. There's a 1, a 5, a 9, a 13, and a 17. That's just telling you the line numbers. So if I asked you to go to line 11, what you would do is you see where line 9 is. Well, this would be 10, and then this would be 11. So that's what those are there for. It's just telling you the line numbers. So let's go ahead and annotate the rhyme scheme. Remember, that's the pattern. And you should have some practice with this because it was an IXL task to do. So let's see how you guys do. I look at the word the. I know because it's the first word and there's nothing before it that that's going to be the letter A. Days. Days doesn't rhyme with the, so now that's the letter B. I know come doesn't rhyme with days or these, so that's the letter C. But then I look at ways. Ways rhymes with days. Now that becomes the letter B. So the rhyme scheme of the first stanza, not paragraph, the first stanza is A, B, C, B. Let's keep going. Useless. Now, because I am still continuing on with my poem, I still have to look back at these words right here to keep going. Because if I write the letter A, I'm saying that A, or useless, rhymes with the, and it doesn't. So in this case, useless doesn't rhyme with any of these words. So now this is going to be D. I just keep going in my alphabet. Sedated doesn't rhyme with any of these, so it gets the letter E. Thing doesn't rhyme with any of these words, so it gets the letter F. And then caffeinated. Caffeinated rhymes with sedated, so it gets the letter E. So the pattern you can see is A, B, C, B, D, E, F, E. If you wanted to keep going, you could so that you could see the rest of the pattern, but we're only going to do the first two stanzas. We are not going to do 3 and 4. We're going to skip over those ones because I want to go over 5 and 6. Number 5 says, find a metaphor in the first stanza. Underline or highlight in blue. So I'm going to get my blue here ready to go. Now, if you remember, a metaphor is comparing two things, not using the word like or as. And it actually told us to go to the first stanza. So that would be this first kind of paragraph. Remember, we don't call it a paragraph, but I'm just trying to get you used to that word and relate those two because they're common. So the metaphor here is actually comparing coffee to adrenaline of my days. Now, adrenaline means like when you have a lot of energy. So it's comparing the coffee to saying it gives you tons of energy throughout your days. So that is our metaphor in stanza 1. Number 6 says to find a hyperbole in the second stanza and underline or highlight in yellow. So remember, a hyperbole is an exaggeration, meaning it's something that's not true. So right here, I'm going to see if I can underline this straight. I can't imagine doing a thing if I were not caffeinated. That is a hyperbole because it's saying that if you didn't have coffee, you couldn't do a thing in your day. Like you couldn't get up to do the dishes, you couldn't go outside to play. That's an exaggeration. So that's why that one is a hyperbole. So I'm also not going to go over number 7. I'm just going to leave that. Internal rhyme, remember that that's talking about finding a rhyme inside of the line or inside of the stanza. So if you wanted to know what that was, it's actually right here. It's in line 11. So it's right here. No is in here, and then Joe is right here. So that's why those two rhyme. So again, an ode is a poem that celebrates a subject. Again, it can be anything. It's a tribute to an object, person, or event. It can be serious or humorous. and it may or may not use rhyme or meter. So that's all I have for you today for poetry. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time when we learn more about different types of poems.